We're back for another Saturday episode, and today we're actually not working on the K-swap. So today we're going to be working on properly venting a valve cover for turbo Miata applications. So let's get to it. So if you've ever seen big turbo cars out at like a car meet or on the strip or anything like that, they all have catch cans, kind of like the one that I just built for my car, which I'll show you now. I'll show you the second revision of it. So this is a breather box, not the one that you guys saw me powder coat last week, but same concept. So there's 3 lines that are going to run into it. For Dylan's application, there's going to be 2. We're going to run a breather, 2 breathers, 10 AN from the valve cover into this, 2 10 AN lines into this box. Those will be venting excess crankcase pressure out of the system. So if you add boost, you're adding crankcase pressure. It naturally seeps by the rings and it essentially pressurizes your oil pan, and that pressure has to go somewhere. And if the stock PCV system can't handle it, once you start making some decent power, really 200 horsepower is fine. But once you start going above that, you should really invest in this sort of setup. So by adding a breather box, that pressure has somewhere to go. So it's going to run through those 10 AN lines into the breather box or catch can or anything. And then the pressure will vent out of here. And any oil that comes in will catch in the bottom of this thing, which is why it's called a catch can. So this, as you guys know, my other valve cover is getting 10 AN bungs, or powder coated right now after we put bungs on it. I should be getting that back soon, but I'm going to walk you guys through. I couldn't find a video really on how to do it for a Miata, besides like scrolling through forums. So I figured I would make a video for you guys on how to do it with a BP engine. So we're going to weld 2 AN bungs onto his setup, and eventually I will be building a catch can similar to this one that works on BP engines. And both this one and that one will be for sale if anybody wants to buy one that's similar. I can also weld your valve cover, all that stuff. So the purpose of this episode, though, is to show you guys the proper steps to get proper venting in your valve cover so you don't blow your oil seals out because of the increased pressure. So on this is a VVT valve cover because it's from Dylan's car, so this isn't normal on most other Miatas, but every Miata has this breather port, which recirculates back into the intake. The weird line that runs across the front. And then it also has this over here, which is the PCV, which Dylan's is broken, but this sits in here, and it's a one-way check valve, so oil doesn't come back in. So if you pressurize your intake, it's not going to push pressure back into your valve cover. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull this out, and we're going to grind this away, and then we're going to weld one 10 AN bung here, which it almost fits, and then one 10 AN bung up top here. And the reasoning, I could go on the side or anywhere else. The reason I'm doing the top is because I'm going to put the catch can kind of off the screen over here, and we're going to run both lines together, and it'll be a nice clean finish look. This is lower than the VVT stack, which I might have. So I'm not worried, if we do a short 90 off the top of this thing, there's going to be plenty of room for the hood to close. And I'll show you why those positions are what I chose. So underneath you have this is your valve cover, just flipped upside down. And you've got 3 covers on here. So I'll take the screws out of these and I'll show you what goes on under here. But this is your, PCV baffle system. So there's ways for air to get into here, but there's limited ways for oil to get into this setup, which is why this is here. And now where we were going to weld the ports on is backwards. So the one 10 AN goes on the side here, and the other one is going to go here, just underneath this cover. And the reason we're going to put them under where the covers are is so that if oil's splashing around, or when oil splashes around with the cam spinning and all that stuff, it's not going to throw oil out into this catch can system, and he would, pump his catch can full of oil in a matter of minutes. So we're going to take these guys off. They're held on with 6 screws each, 7 screws over here. And then there's a seal of RTV, so when you're prying it, just be very careful you don't bend the plates up. It takes a little bit of wiggling with a flathead, but it all comes off. So here you've got the inside of all those baffle plates. I did bend one of them a little bit. It's just kind of how it happens. You can bend them back, just be careful. You don't want to crease anything. So here is the side with the little breather nipple on it. That's the hole for it. So there's a hole here, and on some of them there's another hole over here on a different baffle. I have one right there that I'll show you. We're gonna drill this out to a bigger diameter because we need air to pass through here at a faster rate. So by opening that hole up, you allow more air to go through. The other thing, so here's the PCV port with the one-way check valve. We're just gonna weld that bung pretty much right into that opening. You know, here's the bung, goes into that opening right there. We're gonna fill this and we're gonna drill a hole right around here, and that's where the other bung is gonna go on the top. So let's drill this hole out. Let me grab the other valve cover first. So here's the VVT valve cover. Here's a 99 to, or sorry, this is an NA8 valve cover. So this is a 1.8, 94 to 97. You can see there's another cross divider right here where this one has nothing. I'm assuming this was an upgrade on the later valve covers for more breathability. But here, they had a small pass-through hole like they did over here. And I drilled out both this hole, which is the one I was talking about on the VVT cover, and this guy. You could probably cut this out if you really wanted to. It's really unnecessary. The fact that this doesn't have one on its own, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna consider it an upgrade and not have to do anything about it. So we're gonna drill out this hole right now. It's not a pretty sight drilling inside your valve cover. These are both gonna go off to get powder coated. This one, the 94 to 97 one, will likely be a giveaway along with the catch can and all the AN lines for it if we get to 5,000 subs. So we'll keep that in mind. They're both going to go off to get powder coated, so they're both going to need to be sandblasted. They'll be washed and everything like that before powder coating, so I'm not worried about the metal chips in there. If you're doing this yourself, make sure you hose it out. If you're going to spray paint it yourself at home or whatever, make sure you take the time, get all the metal chips out of there, because you don't want that stuff flying back in your engine bay. So let's drill some holes and weld some bungs. The hole here is currently a 1/4 inch diameter. We're gonna open it up. This is a 3/8 bit, but as you can see, I'm gonna get stuck trying to spin it on these ledges here. So I'm gonna take a step bit and start it, open it up until I can feed that bit without this drill chucking around in my hand. So I'm gonna put some PPE on and we'll get to drilling. For the sake of not breaking my wrists, I'm gonna stop there. You can see clear through, here's my finger. That is a 3/8 hole drilled through, 2 pieces of 1/8 inch aluminum. It doesn't take a whole lot. Just be careful if you're doing it. I set the drill in torque mode and it catches hard. So that's all set. The next thing we're gonna wanna do is find where we're gonna wanna put the bung. We know we're gonna wanna put one of them because there's a hole there already. So we're gonna wanna find where we put the bung on the other side, take that PCV or breather nipple port out of there and weld that shut, and then weld the bungs on after we drill those holes. So I'm gonna show you kind of where I'm thinking. Right here, you can see it on the other valve cover, right next to the rib. It doesn't really matter if I'm on the rib, but if I line it up with the oil filler cap, it should be a perfectly, it should be appealing to the eyes from the top, and you'll avoid having to drill through the rib. So I'm gonna go for right around there, just, south of where this port comes, probably by a diameter of the port. So if I have a breather cap, obviously on the other side, but it'll be somewhere right around here. So where the end of the cap is where the end of this breather bung fitting is. That took a bit more effort than I expected, but faster way to do it is lock it in a vise and wiggle the whole thing. I don't know how, but I still don't own like a good set of vice grips. These channel locks are what I've been using forever. So having to like clamp those shut while wiggling this around, I just couldn't hold everything well enough. But there it is. So that's cut out now. What we're gonna do is grind this all down so that it's the same contour as the valve cover. And then once it's there, we'll fill the hole in with aluminum and then weld that back down, or grind that back down again. But before we do that, we can drill the hole so that we're only welding once really. We'll drill the hole here, weld this bung in, weld this bung in, weld this shut all at the same time. The big important thing when you're welding really any material is cleanliness. And as you can assume, a valve cover that's been heated, cooled, covered in oil constantly is not anywhere near clean. So they do suck to weld. That one had its ups and downs, but what I'm gonna do is grind all the paint away, you know, a couple inches around the whole thing, around each spot. And then on the inside where I'm welding, I'm gonna wipe it all down with acetone as well as the outside and try and get as much of that oil residue out of there so that hopefully I'm not sucking all the oil through into the weld. This is cast aluminum, which is very porous and it likes to hold oil and air pockets and things like that. So it's good fun to weld, but that one, you know, it really wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, but wasn't great either. So let's mark and drill the hole up top here, and then I'll show you guys kind of the cleanup process before we do start welding anything. This is why we put the turbo away. So this is all, I almost said machined. Ground smooth, the contour is the same as the rest of the valve cover. We're gonna fill this up full of stuff anyways and grind it again. So it doesn't have to be perfect right now, but it's close, so that's great. This, you can see I kind of cleaned around an inch. That way the paint doesn't suck into the weld and the weld won't look gross. I might actually clean this a little more. Just probably down to like here. This one's a little tricky with as big of a grinding wheel as I have. There's typically a step right here, and I had to grind through that step to be able to get all the paint off the inside. But you won't see by the time there's a welded bead around the bottom of that. So this is how this is gonna fit. We're gonna have one right here, and then this will no longer be a thing. So let's see if that'll stay. Of course not. So this is what we're looking at. It's time to weld this on. Well, actually first we gotta acetone it. So I'll show you kind of what I go through. Let me grind this up. We'll acetone it and then we'll weld it. We're back on the bench. This is still super hot right now. These welds actually came out really nice. I am impressed with myself. This weld, however, is full of garbage. So we're gonna... Man, you're flaking away. There he goes. That's what heat does to paint. We're gonna grind this down, and I'm sure, like right there, we're gonna have to backfill in another round and then grind it down again. So we'll see how long this takes, but time to get to grind. I lied. I guess it only took one pass. There's no porosity in there that I can see. And it is nicely contoured to the rest of the valve cover. So when you paint it, it'll look like it wasn't ever there. These welds, I'm gonna hit them with a wire brush. Aluminum only wire brush, just to kind of clean them up a little bit and inspect them for holes. There is stuff like this here. You can see maybe there's some, what looks like black specks in there. That's the oil coming through from the back. It's not a hole, it's just contamination. Those aren't gonna go anywhere. Even if I add more filler, they'll just keep floating to the surface. Not worth touching it. You won't see it when it's powder coated. So let's scuff these down and I'll show you kind of what the end looks like. Then I'll walk you through the process on the car. So just for discussion's sake, my car is now a BP, no longer case. This is how it'll fit. Obviously on a regular motor, it won't be a mile high like it is on the K. So we have the two ports that we welded on here. You know, your intake would route across the front, opposite from what you're seeing here, because your intake is on this side. What'll happen is I'm going to be building a catch can, probably similar to the one that I have over there, that'll maybe sit right here, or over here, or where the washer tank sits. I'd rather put one kind of here or here, that way it works on, you know, Miatas with washer tanks that aren't relocated. And you'll run a line from here to the tank, from here to the tank, and then you'll have two breathers on top, and ideally a drain down below so you can take the can out and drain it. You could pretty easily build a line that routes it back into the intake. The difference in setups is a true breather can, like what I have, doesn't pull any pressure from the combustion chamber or from the crankcase. A line like, you know, the PCV here that ran back into the intake, the point of that is to pull crankcase pressure when the intake is in vacuum. So when you're on the throttle, not in boost, but on the throttle. And if you look at a car that has boost or a boost gauge, before you make any boost, you're in vacuum. During that time, it's sucking crankcase pressure out of the crankcase. Is it better? Probably. There's benefits to both. Benefit that I like here is that there's no way anything's getting sucked back into my intake or into my turbo. It's gonna dirty it up. This is simpler. I don't have to weld an AN bung onto this little guy for my car. There's just no room there. And I don't know. I just think it looks kind of cool with the two little breather pods over there. This is how Dylan's car is going to be set up. I haven't made his catch can yet. I'm going to wait probably until he's here or until I can go there and take some measurements and draw some things up. And then, you know, weld one together for his car. But yeah, that's really a wrap for this. This is going to get sent to the same guy who's coating my K-swap valve cover, Charlie Mua, because he now also has interest in doing Miata stuff. And I figured I'd send him this valve cover and the other one that I welded up last weekend. I mentioned it earlier, and then Dylan and I have been talking about it for a while. We're around 2,500 subs right now, probably 2,400 by the time this video comes out. We want to do, it's a ways out, but we want to do a 5K sub giveaway. And that's going to consist of, at this point, a vented valve cover, a fully set up catch can, you know, with breathers and everything on it, bolt-in unit, and the AN lines to run to that catch can unit. So it would literally be, take your valve cover off, slap this one on, bolt the breather in, hook the lines up, and you got a whole plug and play unit. The difficulty there is that the valve cover I have is 94 to 97 only. I would be open to, if somebody wins it and you're either a 1.6 or a 99 or a VVT motor, ship me your valve cover. I'll gladly weld some bungs onto it and get it powder coated and ship it back to you. But that's the thought. We haven't really put much time into how we're going to decide who's the winner. It's probably going to be something on Instagram. So keep an eye out in the next couple weeks. We'll likely announce something just to get the ball rolling. We are a ways out, but we want to kind of drum up some excitement about it. Should be a pretty cool setup. That's it for this episode. So I hope you guys learned something. There's nothing to do when it comes back from powder coating. You just bolt the baffle plates back in and you're done. Put some RTV around them and throw it on the car. So that's a wrap. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully next week we'll be back with Miata stuff. If my slave cylinder gets here, we can put the trans in. But that's a wrap for today. Have a good weekend, and I will see you guys next Saturday. Make sure, as usual, smash the like button. Leave a raving review about how perfectly awesome you think my welds are not. Hit the subscribe button to get us to 5K so we can do a cool giveaway and include all you guys in that. So thank you guys so much. See you next weekend.